tax cut is about $740. And it's not permanent. It's not permanent. Under the Senate plan, our tax cut is between $500 and $700 a year more. They're $740. We're around $1,225, $1,250 to $1,400, depending on senior, non-senior, etc. So our tax plan gives all homeowners, 5.7 million, another $500 to $700 every year for the rest of their life they live in their home. That's $14,000, $15,000, $16,000 to families. And if you look at 5.7 million homeowners times a 30-year mortgage times the savings, it's almost $90 to $100 billion that the governor and the House are refusing to give Texas homeowners. It's clear, it's simple. They couldn't answer it. They couldn't respond. They haven't said, we don't want to take care of homeowners. And by the way, I think every one of the 150 House members, I know every one of the 31 senators, the governor, myself, and all statewide said, we're here to reduce property taxes. Homeowners weren't thinking about reducing property taxes for shopping centers and offices and every other complex you can think of, or people out of state who own property here. They were thinking about themselves, rightfully so. So there have been a couple of articles written since last Tuesday. To my shock, I must admit, because I don't think I've ever had a positive editorial in my life. Just a couple of highlights. Dallas Morning News article today, Mark Jones, professor. Patrick's proposal benefits average Texans far more than the Phelan-Abbott. Houston Chronicle news article by Jasper Scherer. Plan touted by Lieutenant Governor more directly benefits homeowners, while Abbott plan extends benefits to businesses and households with higher income. The House plan that Abbott supports, according to Mr. Levine and his Tax Policy Institute, says that 44% of all benefits will go to homeowners with the top 20% with the highest incomes. And you say, well, how did he come up with that? Simple. Our bill is a $100,000 homestead exemption. If you live in $1 million house, you get a $100,000 exemption. If you live in a $100,000 house, you get a $100,000 exemption. But their plan of all compression means that the higher price house you live in, the more you get. And that's why so many of these writers who have studied these plans, whether they're writers, editorial boards, or think tanks, have realized that our plan is the fairest to every homeowner. And it means so much. If you live in a $250,000 home and you're getting a $100,000 exemption, you're paying taxes on a $150,000 home. That's a hell of a deal. When I became Lieutenant Governor, it was $15,000. We raised it to $40,000, and now we want to go to $100,000. Anyone can do the math. If you live in a $400,000 home, you're paying taxes on a $300,000 home. Another article, Houston Chronicle editorial. Lieutenant Governor has a better plan than his counterparts. Who has the best plan for everyday Texans? On this one, Dan Patrick is right. We said so during the regular session, and our conclusion has only gotten firmer. Dallas Business Journal by Jeff Schnick, editor-in-chief. When it comes to tax relief, Dan Patrick's plan is better. Senate plan is not anti-business. Patrick plan is remarkably uncomplicated and a viable option for the business community. Remember, they're getting 70% of the $17.6 billion. What the heck are they complaining about? Why be so greedy and want all $17.6 billion? He goes on to say, my unsolicited advice is Patrick should stand his ground and Phelan should get back to work. Breaks over. His words, not mine. Now there's a text going out now to senators. It says Abbott wants to slash property taxes 29% and eventually eliminate them. Okay, let's look at the plans. Their plan slashes school property taxes 26%. Guess what ours does? We slash it 41%. Why? Because of the homestead exemption. Gives homeowners a bigger tax cut. And let's talk about this eliminating property taxes. We're going to pass out, do we have that sheet? I want everyone to get one in the media, and if we have leftover for the folks who are here visiting. Because I want you to walk through this. And again, I'm not blaming the governor. He didn't really get into the property tax fight during the whole session, as you know. This was last week. Suddenly he said, this is my plan. I don't know if he knows what's in the plan. And if someone told him otherwise, then they've given him bad advice. So everybody got their papers? So look at the top. That information comes from LBB. So not my numbers. This is Legislative Budget Board numbers. If you add up all the taxes that will be collected from local entities, school districts, cities, counties, special districts, in 2024, you see that number? $73.8 billion. In 2025, it's $76.2 billion. So that's everything that's going to be collected in property taxes in the state. Now let's look at everything the state collects. This would be sales taxes, motor vehicle taxes, motor fuel taxes, franchise tax, oil production tax, insurance taxes, cigarette and tobacco taxes, natural gas production tax, alcoholic beverage tax, hotel occupancy tax, utility taxes, other taxes. What does it add up? $72.4 billion. So if we eliminated property taxes in the next 2 years, we would spend every dollar of our budget. There would be no funding for education, no funding for health care, no funding for law enforcement. These aren't my numbers. That's the LBB's numbers on top, and guess whose numbers are on the bottom? That's in the report from the controller this year. So Bob, math is pretty simple. If you're going to eliminate all property taxes, you have no money left to do anything. This is a joke perpetrated by some people who, not the governor, somebody reeled him into this, and he just said it. I'm not blaming him. He would not endorse this. The governor's not going to endorse this. Are you kidding me? Spend every dollar on property taxes where you have nothing left? Oh, there is another way you could do it. Remember, if you want to have money for schools and health care and police and everything else, you just increase the sales tax from 6 cents to about 20 cents. And that's not going anywhere in the legislature, and the people will never approve it. So let's just stop this. We're going to end property taxes. It's a fantasy. It's like when Ma Richards said, you know, pass the lottery, it'll pay for education. It pays for a week. This is a plan put forth by a guy who got 8% of the vote after he spent about $10 million running against Abbott. So here's where we are. This fight's over. I think the people have spoken. I think the facts and the data is clear. The Senate plan gives homeowners who homestead their property $5.7 million, every one of them between $1,200 and $1,400 in the tax cut, and the Abbott House plan gives about $740. Those are the numbers. Can't argue it. The difference between us, they want 100% of $17.6 billion, and we're saying, can't you carve out 30% and give it to the homeowners? I do not understand why the governor's office, and again, he hasn't said he's against it, he just hasn't said he's for it. I cannot imagine that he would veto a bill if the House and Senate send him a bill that's 70% compression, because compression's good, we're not arguing that, but 30% for a home exemption of $100,000 for the rest of their lives. And let me add this. For those in the House who might say, well, yeah, we voted 147 to nothing for it. Well, that was a good idea then, but we've changed our mind. Why? And the Speaker who voted aye. And by the way, the reason I know they believe in exemptions, because their number one priority bill this session to pass was House Bill 5, which gave what? exemptions for 10 years of property taxes to businesses. I'm the most pro-business lieutenant governor we've ever had. All these businesses that signed up with the governor's plan, of course they signed up. They just got 100% of $17.6 billion. Why wouldn't they sign up? The governor said to me, and this is kind of old lore around the Capitol, you've got a speaker, you've got a lieutenant governor, and you have a governor. And if two are against one, usually the one loses. And I said to the governor, but not if the two have bad policy. When the two are behind a bad policy. It's not that it's bad, it's just bad because they leave homeowners out. We agree with them on compression. We want a homestead exemption. People say, well, Dan, can't you negotiate? Well, I think that's negotiating. You want 100%, we'll give you 70, give the homeowners 30. That's a negotiation that we are not backing down from ever in the Senate. There are not 21 votes, which it would take to pass an all-compression bill. And the more people learn every day about the bills, the more they know the Senate bill does more for homeowners than the governor and the House bill, and that we're not eliminating property taxes. It's not possible. What we have been doing is lowering property taxes since 2019. People say, my appraisal's up. And I say to them, look at your tax bill. Because what we did in 19 was say, no matter what your appraisal is, government can't grow more than 3.5%. So they have to bring their tax rate down when your appraisal goes up. That and the homesteads, so compression on homesteads and the cap on local governments have brought taxes, property taxes, instead of growing 6, 7, 8, 9% a year, to either being down. According to the Houston Chronicle, first time in decades property taxes were down in many of our counties. So we're on the right path. Let's stay on the right path. Let's pass this bill. I say to the House, come back to work. We're working. We'll be here. We'll wait next week, see if you come back. And if the governor agrees, or disagrees rather, with me, then I invite Governor Abbott to a Lincoln Douglas style debate on this issue of eliminating property taxes for the long term, and this bill specifically on homestead, and we will prove in that debate, just the two of us talking, we'll prove that the House plan is far superior to the Senate plan because ours gives a $1,200 to $1,400 tax cut and it's permanent. They give a $740 tax cut. It's not permanent. We'll prove that you cannot eliminate property taxes unless you want to increase the sales tax to 20 cents. But we'll also prove that we can work together. The governor and I work together well a lot. And up until this event, we've never disagreed publicly. But last Tuesday, when he tweeted out that the House plan was better, I had to respond. Because it's not for homeowners. When he tweeted out that eliminating all property taxes is my plan, I had to respond and say, that doesn't make any sense. So I'm not arguing with the governor. We'll go on and fight another day, and we'll be aligned more likely than we're not. The same way with the House. But we're not going to back up on this. And if the governor disagrees, then I'm open next Monday and Tuesday to a Lincoln Douglas debate. 45 minutes ought to get it done. Any questions?
Governor,
Yes,
under what mechanism procedurally could the House come back after adjourning sine die? And if they don't, is your plan to just run out the clock until the governor calls another special?
So, great question. Some believe in the House that they can come back. We've heard from some House members that they can come back. Since they haven't officially adjourned sine die, because we haven't allowed them to, we each have to allow each other to do that at the end of session. If they really want to come back and help homeowners get the tax cut they deserve, they'll figure out a way. And if they can't, all the Speaker has to do is say, you know what, Senate, why don't you sine die, and I'll ask the governor to call us back the next day, and we'll just come back and start all over. So there's a way to get it done. And we need to get it done because there's a time limit on this. You know, this is a constitutional amendment, and we have to get it on the ballot, and that takes about 90 days to pass a bill. I don't know when the exact cutoff day is, probably sometime in early August. So we have to get this done. Next question.
Wouldn't it be better if you guys would have gotten a deal first and then got called back rather than call back and find out themselves?
Well, you can't get a deal if somebody leaves.
I mean, before he even called a special session, wouldn't it be better, okay, how close are you, how close?
Well, let
are
me
you?
tell you that, okay? Let's tell the full story here, because you know what? There's too much riding on this. This is an historic moment. It's $17.6 billion. And we're debating over, well, what do we do with the tax plan? How do we fund government, et cetera, et cetera? All we want is to give homeowners an exemption so they get a bigger tax cut. That's all we want, okay? But on the last day, the governor and I were in his office with the speaker, and the speaker said, I'm out of here. I'm going to go and let everybody go home. And he left. And I said to the governor, get him on the phone, because the night before that, we went through this with the grid. He said, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this on the grid. I'm not doing this on the loan. I'm not doing it. I'm out of here. And he left. And I said to the governor, Governor, he has one more day. He'll come back. And the next day, we passed HB 5, the sunset bill, and the other bill. I forget the other number. We got it all done. So when he walked out on the last minute on the property tax, I said, Governor, let's call him. Let's make one more offer. And I made him one more offer. And he turned it down. And then, so he left one meeting in a huff. He left another meeting in a huff. And if you saw him gavel out the other day on Sine Die, I thought he was going to break the gavel. So it's just tough to negotiate with someone when they keep walking out and not doing their job. I'm here.
Are you
Yeah.
prepared to stay for the full 30 days of this session, or is there some point you're going to call it quits, gavel out, and?
Well, we pretty much are at the point where we've done all the work that the governor asked us to do. We'll be here tonight and tomorrow. I'll hang around till Thursday. Come back in Monday, and we'll see if there's any movement.
Governor,
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Senator Angela Paxton refused to sign the
Governor Abbott, other than
Just staff. And you know what? It's really odd. When I set this press conference up for today, I didn't know all these. I mean, there was one or two articles. I didn't know the Dallas Morning News was going to say today that this plan is terrible. But the media has figured this out. You all have figured this out. You all have figured the math out. And the public is figuring it out. And the House members are figuring it out. And the senators already knew about it. And again, it's not like we're choosing between which ice cream do you like, chocolate or vanilla. We're saying we agree with compression. You just can't have.
I was doing just some like back-to-napkin math.
Yeah.
When you factor in like the potential for a 2% appraisal, you do have some situations, depending on a variety of factors, obviously, where bills this year might still be higher than they were last year, even if the plans that the two chambers are proposing go into effect. I guess how would you respond to that? And is there
What's the question?
I guess is there a combination of like appraisal caps, like
No,
the
and-
exemptions and the
And remember that the speaker has already jettisoned now his appraisal cap idea. He didn't fight for it here, and he just said, okay, all compression. He gave that up. Secondly, the businesses came out and said, we don't want appraisal caps, not 5%, not 8%, 10%, because they see it distorts the market. And third, I think he has finally figured out that what we did in 19, which he voted for, is actually working. So I don't see that as an issue anymore. I got time for 2 more questions.
when you say that property tax, eliminating the M&O tax
Yeah.
is a fantasy, are you talking about in the next 2 years, or are you saying that?
You can never get there, and let me explain to you why. You know, the governor says, well, we're going to have higher revenues. Well, with that comes higher expenses. Okay, and by the way, in the plan, again, I don't think the governor knows that plan, but one of the facets of that plan is that 90% of all surplus in the future would go just to property. We all want to end property taxes, but you can't fund the government of just sales taxes. You can't do it, because when the economy is down, what happens? You don't have the sales taxes to do what you just did the last session. Let me explain that to you. I'm not sure everybody gets this. This $17.6 billion plan, that means when we come back next session, we have to do it again. So what if we don't have $17.6 billion next time? What if the economy collapses? What if there's a recession? Right now, our sales taxes are down now, Tony, about a 4% increase. They're down from the double digits increases. That's why we kept some reserve back. But so when you do compression, that's why I say it's not permanent. When you do compression, if we do 15 billion this year or 17.6, we have to do that every year for the rest of our lives. Make sense? Because you have to keep doing it. If you don't do it one year, property taxes hit the roof because the school districts aren't collecting it because we've been paying for it, a large portion of it, and now we can't pay them for it. So the school districts either have to cut their budgets dramatically or we have to raise the sales tax 20 cents. So you got, I mean, does that make sense to you? When we make a commitment.
School finance plan?
Pardon?
Or presumably another school finance
Yeah,
plan?
yeah, you can't, so even in the future, and again, if you look at that sheet I gave you, to get rid of all property taxes today is 73.8 billion? We don't even collect that much. So you never get ahead of the game. But compression works, and that's why I support what the governor and the House are doing at 70%. A step at a time, step at a time. Homestead exemption works. Keeping cities and counties' budgets, under control. You do all of that, over time, you can dramatically decrease property taxes or hold them very level, which is the first time that's ever happened. And so that's why this plan, a fantasy that you can do it. You should never get there. Bob? I'll come to you next. Bob?
You mentioned times of the essence because you need a constitutional
Yeah.
amendment to do homestead exemption.
Right.
Their plan has a constitutional amendment to get around the spending cap.
Yeah.
Do you also feel time pressure to free up the money, the $5 billion in the budget for PubEd so the districts can do their budgets, or do you feel you can come back in September, deal with school choice, and districts can adjust to whatever you do with that?
Well, that's a whole nother issue. That's a whole nother issue. And that's why it's important to get this, done now, because we have, look, there are a lot of bills I'd like to get back, on it, see the governor put on the call. 10 Commandment, putting prayer time back in our schools. Bail reform to keep murderers and rapists in jail. Recalling judges that aren't following the law. I go down a long list. We sent them 14 election bills, I think. 12 of them died. There are a lot of bills I'd like to see. And as this young lady mentioned earlier, we have a trial to deal with at some point this summer. So time is of the essence. This was not the time for the House to leave. Let me just put it that way. Because, I was told rather, that someone was shocked that we didn't take their take it or leave it bill. What were they thinking? They didn't give the bird to the Texas Senate. They gave the bird to 5.7 million homeowners and said, take it or leave it. We're not giving you a homeowner's exemption. And so why they did that, I don't know. And I just go back to, they passed it 247-0 a few weeks ago, and now, we can't do this. Yes, they can. So thank you. I appreciate you all coming. Did I get your question?
If you can answer it really quickly.
Yeah.
Do you know what the state of House Bill 30 is? That's the
Yeah.
bill
That's a whole long story, but that will take care of itself. It will take care of itself before you know it.
What does that mean?
We'd like to know that too,
Actually-
actually. We're interested in
When will it go to the governor?
So that if we passed House Bill 30, they would pass a Senate bill. I forget what Senate bill it was. And so we passed House Bill 30. Again, I wasn't on the podium. And they killed our bill. So they made a deal. We'll pass a bill, and we'll pass your bill. We passed their bill. HB 30 turned out to be. I didn't know what it was. They killed our bill when the speaker huffed out and walked down and hit the gavel. So our bill was dead. So for me, I signed, 700, 800 bills. I don't know. I'm signing bills left and right. And I didn't know anything about it until the next day. And I said, what's that bill all about? Let me see that bill. And I stuck it on my podium, and it's been there for the last 5 days, and always intended to be signed it, always intended to sign it. I just pulled it out and say, what's going on here? I don't even know what's going on. And that's the only reason. So because they played games there and killed that Senate bill after we passed HB 30, otherwise I wouldn't have even pulled it out of the stack. I just want to see what it's about.
You are going to sign it eventually.
It's,
That's what you're saying.
let's just say it's